You talk about influencers. These are influencers, and they're friends of mine. Jack Posobiec. Where's Jack? Jack, who's done a great job.
Okay, Jack Posobiec here. We are live, Human Events Daily. We're in Washington, D.C. We're sitting down with the Washington Bureau Chief of Breitbart News, Matt Boyle. And so, Matt, we were talking about the use now of the U.S. military focusing on that hemispheric defense and locking down not just the homeland, but also these direct threats to the homeland, be they from the cartels, be they from narco terror, whatever it is. The U.S. military obviously should be used for the direct benefit of the American people. But at the same time, when we look abroad, what do we see in Beijing? This massive military parade. They're putting their nuclear tryout, their new Dongfang 5 missiles out there. These are intercontinental missiles. This is far more advanced than I believe anyone but Russia has on the planet, outside of us, obviously, and as well as their submarine-launched, the JL-1s, and then they've got the air-launched nuclear missiles as well. So that's out there, plus massive drone contingent that they're putting on full display. And who do you see then right next to him? Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong-un. This whole conglomeration it's the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which really is becoming the military arm of BRICS. So BRICS and the SCO are sort of like a parallel structure to NATO and the G7. Is President Trump on the inside track for confronting the rise of this new axis?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's one of the biggest things that he's focused on, and what he's doing is through these trade deals and peace deals that he's negotiating around the world. And I was with the president a month ago in Scotland at the end of July, and then a couple days later we hosted a huge event with the Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. We talked about it there too. What the president's done, and when I interviewed the president, it was the morning after he had just announced the big trade deal with the European Union. What the president is trying, first off, you got to take a step back here. Since the end of the Cold War, the fall of the wall, and the breakup of the Soviet Union, there was one world superpower. It was the United States. But what we've done, because of our globalist loser establishment people from both parties and the financial elites, et cetera, is they've acceded enormous amounts of power and financial legitimacy, et cetera, to the Chinese Communist Party. China's been draining us from the inside. So what's happened is we have two world powers now. It's Beijing and Washington. Both see each other as see themselves as the center of the world, right? So Washington here views Washington as the center of the world power, and Beijing views Beijing as the center of the world.
What's funny you mentioned that the word China in Mandarin is Zhongguo. So it literally means Central Kingdom.
Right, exactly. And so what they've done over this 30-year period, 40-year period since the end of the Cold War is they've been spreading their malign influence around the world through things like the Belt and Road Initiative, et cetera, and they've been trying to flip countries' recognition from Taiwan to China.
And they've been extremely successful.
And yes, and they've engaged in depth diplomacy, and they've got all these African nations, and they were starting to get into Europe in the Western Hemisphere a little bit, and some of the Caribbean nations and South American countries, et cetera.
Well, they're all over the
Caribbean. But we didn't do anything to push back on them until Trump's first term. Trump's first term, you started seeing it a little bit. Now in Trump's second term, he's really got them scared. And the big thing that Trump has done is he has pulled through these trade deals close to about 70% of world GDP now in trade deals with the United States. That's the EU, the United Kingdom, Indonesia, Vietnam, Japan, Korea, et cetera, all in trade deals with the United States. The big one that remains out there, and you saw him, the leader of this country, with this group with Putin and Xi earlier, like a couple days ago, is India, right? So Modi. And now there's a standoff between
remember, Modi, so Modi, what is he? He's kind of splitting the baby a little bit.
He's playing both sides against the middle.
He goes to the meeting, but he doesn't go to the parade.
Right, and so he's playing both sides against the middle here, and there is a standoff right now between the U.S. and U.S. and India with regard to tariffs. Trump has bumped them up to 50%. So we'll see if there's a deal to be made. President Trump just named his head of personnel in the White House. Sergio Gore is now going to be the U.S. ambassador to India. Right, a huge moment, and I think the world of Sergio. I think he'll be confirmed easily by the Senate.
Just a guy who gets it. Just
right,
a guy
totally
who
gets it. And I've
it.
talked to Sergio at length about this stuff over the years. I've known him since long before he was famous and the Sergio Gore that everybody knows now. But the point is that a very, very smart guy. So he's going to be an intelligent guy, and he'll be confirmed by the Senate. I think that the U.S. will get to a deal with India. And when that happens, what President Trump then has is basically the entire free world in economic partnership with the United States in these trade deals and broader peace agreements. That gives him leverage to force the Russians to agree to end the war in Ukraine. That's a big part of what's going on with India and everything right now. Is all about the Russian energy, right? So India is a huge purchaser of Russian natural gas and oil. So if he's able to bring India to heel, then that's going to help him bring Putin to heel. Now I don't think they can fully flip Putin off of China. I've talked to the Secretary of State about this, but I asked him if it's a Nixon reverse Nixon goes to China type moment,
the
right?
Monica Crowley.
Right, like, yeah. And he said that it kind of is, right? Like they don't think that the Russians will ever fully leave the Chinese, but if they play both sides against the middle type of thing,
what's really
that's
remarkable
good
is
for us.
if you look at the pipeline deal that the Russians just signed with China, this Power Siberia 2, one of the oil fields that it's connecting now that's going to go cut across Mongolia down to Beijing, it was the same field that used to funnel Nord Stream 2 down to Germany and into the Central European market. So basically, the Russians are saying, you know what, thumb their nose, say, look, if we're not going to provide these inputs for the German economy, fine, we'll go to China.
Right, but the thing is, what President Trump's doing is he's bringing the rest of the world together with the United States. He's making the world decide: do they want to stand with the Chinese Communist Party, or do they want to stand with the United States? You can't stand with both. And interestingly,
and I would think that, and we only have a minute left, but I would think that part of the discussion up in Anchorage would hopefully be, look, the carrot that you put on the table is, hey, the rest of the world could potentially be here. Maybe we pull down some of these tariffs. Maybe we do allow some of these oil sales.
Yeah, and I would point people to the interview I did with Secretary Best in a big event at the end of July, where he said, the world is with us now. That was the quote that he said. And I really think that Secretary Besson crystallized it. If you put that together with what President Trump had told me 2 days before in Scotland, I think you get a big picture of this. But President Trump knows he's in the driver's seat on the world stage.
Matt Boyle, Breitbart News, where can people follow you?
Just on X at MBoyle1 and True Social at Real Matt Boyle, and just go to Breitbart.com. Our team is working around the clock.
Appreciate it. Good to see you in person, man.
You bet.
Right back. Jack Posobiec, Real Markets Voice, Human Events Daily.